Thought Cafe presents How Childhood Trauma Affects Your Love Life. For many of us, childhood is a time of innocence, wonder, and carefree joy. But for others, it can be a time of pain, fear, and confusion. When we experience trauma during our childhood years, it can leave lasting scars that impact us in ways we may not even realize. Our childhood experiences can shape the way we approach relationships, the partners we choose, and the patterns we fall into. So in this video, I want to share with you 8 ways that childhood trauma may affect your love life. Number 1, you may struggle to trust others. If you experience betrayal or abandonment as a child, it can be difficult to trust potential partners in the future. This may lead you to avoid close relationships or to sabotage them before they have a chance to develop. You may have developed a belief that people will eventually let you down, which can lead to a pattern of avoiding closeness altogether or pushing people away when they get too close. It's not uncommon to struggle with trust issues in relationships, but when childhood trauma is involved, it can make it even more difficult to overcome. It's important to acknowledge that these trust issues are a result of the trauma you experienced and not a personal failing. With time and effort, it is possible to learn to trust again, but it may take patience and self-compassion along the way. Number 2, you may have an anxious attachment style. When you have an anxious attachment style, it means that you worry a lot about abandonment or rejection in relationships. You may constantly seek reassurance from your partner or feel jealous and possessive when they spend time with others. This attachment style can be a result of childhood trauma, particularly if you experienced inconsistent or unpredictable care from your primary caregiver. You may have learned that the only way to get your needs met was to be constantly vigilant and needy, which can carry over into your adult relationships. If you find yourself struggling with an anxious attachment style, it's important to communicate your needs and fears to your partner in a constructive way. Number 3, you may have an avoidant attachment style. Alternatively, childhood trauma can also lead to an avoidant attachment style, where you may distance yourself from others as a way to protect yourself from getting hurt. This attachment style can also be a result of childhood trauma, particularly if you experience neglect or emotional distance from your primary caregiver. You may have learned to rely on yourself and to suppress your emotions as a way to protect yourself from disappointment or hurt. Number 4, you may seek out partners to remind you of your parent or caregiver. When you have experienced childhood trauma, particularly in the form of abuse, it can impact your self-esteem and self-worth. You may struggle with feeling worthy of love and may even believe that you deserve to be treated poorly or that you're not good enough for a healthy relationship. This can lead to a pattern of attracting partners who are abusive or who reinforce these negative beliefs about yourself. You may find yourself tolerating behaviors that are not acceptable or staying in relationships that are harmful because you don't believe you deserve better. It's important to recognize that these negative beliefs about yourself are a result of the trauma you experience and not a reflection of your worth as a person. Number 5, you may struggle with intimacy. When you have experienced childhood trauma, it can impact your ability to form close and intimate relationships in adulthood. You may struggle with being vulnerable and opening up emotionally to your partner. You may also struggle with physical intimacy and may find it difficult to trust your partner or to feel safe during intimate moments. This can lead to a pattern of avoiding intimacy altogether or engaging in behaviors that are not satisfying or fulfilling in order to avoid feeling vulnerable. The good news is that with therapy and support, you can work on healing from the trauma and on developing a more positive and healthy relationship with intimacy. Number 6, you may attract partners who are also struggling with trauma. This can happen for a few reasons. First, you may feel more comfortable with someone who has also experienced trauma, as they may be more understanding and supportive of your struggles. Also, you may unconsciously seek out partners who remind you of the dynamics you experienced in your childhood, as this feels familiar to you. However, this pattern can be problematic if it leads to a cycle of re-traumatization or if it prevents you from forming healthy relationships. It's important to recognize that you deserve to be in a relationship with someone who treats you with respect and kindness and who is able to support you in a healthy way. Number 7, you may have difficulty expressing your emotions. If you were taught to suppress your emotions as a child, You may struggle to express them in healthy ways as an adult. You may struggle with identifying and labeling your emotions, or you may find it difficult to communicate your feelings to others. Also, you may find that you have a tendency to overreact or to become emotionally dysregulated, as you may not have had the opportunity to learn healthy coping skills or to develop emotional regulation during your childhood. Number 8. You may have difficulty setting boundaries. If your boundaries were repeatedly violated as a child, you may struggle to assert needs and desires in relationships as an adult. This can lead to a pattern of attracting partners who are insensitive to your boundaries or who take advantage of your lack of assertiveness. You may find yourself sacrificing your own needs and desires in order to please your partner or to avoid conflict. It's important to recognize that setting boundaries is an important part of healthy relationships, and that it's okay to assert your needs and desires. With practice and self-compassion, you can work on developing healthy boundaries and on asserting your needs in relationships. Remember, if you've experienced childhood trauma and are struggling in your relationships, you're not alone. It can be challenging to overcome the patterns and beliefs that we learned during our formative years, but it is possible. By recognizing the ways in which childhood trauma may be impacting your love life and taking steps to heal, you can create the fulfilling relationships you deserve. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more content on personal growth, relationships, and healing.